welcome to the very first episode of Hasta La Muerte podcast. And my name is Alex, and this is my beautiful wife,
Veronica.
And wanted to start this because I feel like there's a lot of ideas out there and concepts that aren't being talked about. And I feel like a podcast is a perfect way to try to get that message across. And especially, I feel like a lot of people of color aren't on the podcast platforms, and so I really feel like this needs to get out. And hopefully, I'm trying to get more and more people of color who own businesses, who own their own companies, who are making change in the community, who are making an impact and trying to help those who really need it and are making that change. So that's the goal of this podcast, and along the way we'll be talking about different things that are happening in the news that I think are relevant to us, especially right now in 2018 with this lunatic of a president that we have. Yeah, what do you think, Veronica?
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to start talking more about what's happening in the media, what we're hearing about and reading about, because, yeah, I don't think we tend to do that very often. Like, people of color, I don't know, we're kind of like the last to hear, I think, about things or have them be relevant to us. Yeah, a lot of time they do affect us.
This first thing I wanted to talk about was Facebook. This is a title of an article. It says Facebook purges hundreds of accounts pushing U.S. political spam. A lot of accounts that I follow on Instagram, and they also have Facebook pages, have just been erased from Facebook. And I told my wife this about a month ago. There was a big page, a big website, and a big page. I don't agree with everything he says, with a lot of what he says, but there's little things he says here and there that make sense. Alex Jones, he was erased from all platforms. And even though I don't agree with this guy and everything he says, the very fact that they erased him was a big red flag. Because what did I tell you about a month ago was going to happen?
That they were going to start doing it to other people and anybody that spoke out.
Exactly.
With a different lens.
That they would start attacking other pages that have nothing to do with this guy, and that's exactly what they're doing now. So if you're speaking out, the pages that were taken out were pages about cops, exposing the corruptness, people recording cops doing things that they shouldn't be doing. These were pages about exposing things that the government's kind of these hidden things that they're doing. And all these pages were suddenly just erased from Facebook. And Facebook claims that they were spam profiles and made up profiles. And these pages had millions of followers. And but according to Facebook, it was just political spam.
Yeah, and inauthentic too. That's what I said, which is kind of weird because, like, authentic, how can you really, I don't know, how can you classify that? How can you say something's like inauthentic, right? Like, that was the language used. But a lot of them are just saying that they're fake accounts, or that's what the article says, like, it's fake accounts or multiple accounts with the same names. But, like, what does that really do? If anything, you're trying to, like, increase your following by doing that, but that's the language that they're using, is that they're fake and inauthentic types of accounts that they were using.
Exactly. So what hit me about it was, if these pages are being taken down, we got to start making more things. We got to start making more pages. We got to start creating more Instagram pages. We got to start making more Facebook pages, because the more they take down, the more pages need to rise up and be created by everyone out there, because they can't stop it. They can't stop it. There's too many of us, and I think there's enough people out there who are realizing what's going on. And something I told Veronica, my wife, the other day was, it's a good thing, I feel, that President Trump became president. Not that he's a good president, but that he is such a bad president that a lot of people are waking up to what's going on. a lot of people are waking up and realizing that things need to change in this country, and things aren't as good as a lot of people thought they were. And I think a lot of people were under the conception that everything was just fine and dandy in this country, and it wasn't. But I think Trump kind of revealed, like, no, this is what America is. This is America. What? Like Childish Gambino said. It's not a pretty picture, and more people are just waking up every day. More people are just realizing the type of current situation that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and realizing the system and everything, because I think a lot of times we don't tend to pay attention to that or put that aside, right? Because it's not relevant to us, or like, oh, that's not happening in my life, or it's not my Facebook page, but like that's where it's headed, right? Like that's what it feels like it's headed towards. It starts with Alex Jones. It starts with like having a certain ideal, right, of the world, and then now it's going on to like, what was it? How many? Like 500, 800 accounts on Facebook that are now being shut down. And I feel like at any point it could also be like the individual, right? It could be ourselves that are maybe saying the wrong thing for whoever it is that's deciding. And, you know, they could just say, well, we don't like that content, right? It's inauthentic, it's fake, and so we're taking that down too. So it's kind of our voice, like we're starting to lose our voice, and if we don't realize that that's the end message here, is that we're going to start losing our voice and our way of communicating with each other, then it's just going to keep getting worse.
Something I wanted to talk about, when my grandparents came to this country, they came in the 60s. Most of my aunts and my uncles came here during the 60s, and they came expecting a good life, like most people have come to this country expecting a good life, and things have changed. Things have changed dramatically. We see people struggling and are on hard times everywhere, from coast to coast. We live here in Boston, and the way they treat Hispanics out here is disgusting. It's disgusting. And it's something that really bothered me when I moved here. And it's everywhere, obviously, but I feel like, I don't know, it just really hit me hard over here. And the mistreatment. It's as if they're treated like second-class citizens, given the worst jobs, given the worst pay, not even given breaks. I experienced that firsthand. They weren't even given breaks where I used to work at here in Boston. And it's just mistreatment. And I think a lot of them don't speak up. They can't speak up, or they're scared to speak up. And you know, it really bothered me. And I feel like we need more advocates for these people.
Yeah, and those stories, like if you think about it, those stories wouldn't be out there if it weren't for these other kind of mediums, right? Like the people that are being affected sometimes are like our aunts, our older relatives that maybe don't know English as well, or don't know how to communicate that, don't know where to go to be able to share that information about their lives. And a lot of times it falls back, I think, on us, like our generation who uses Facebook to show the injustices that are happening in different areas, or like at jobs. So other people wouldn't know. Like a lot of the stories we hear, those personal stories, they're posted on Facebook, right? Or like someone talks about it on Facebook and then starts this whole movement around it. I think Black Lives Matter was like super, right, important, and came out of like some medium kind of like Facebook, right?
And what happened with that? Because it seemed like it kind of slowed down.
I know they're still doing stuff. They're definitely still doing stuff, right? But I think it's moved more out of like maybe creating their own like kind of forum, and now it's more of a group. I know it's still there and they're still like working on things. I just don't know exactly about it. I don't know exactly what's like being worked on, but I think it's something that came out of that, right? Like it came out of this media, and like having Facebook as a platform to talk, to get together, to organize, to talk about it, to make a movement. And how would we be able to do that, like for the Hispanics, right, that you were saying are being mistreated in places? Like that's usually the way to go. It's like, well, let's get this on Facebook, or let's make like a short video and introduce people and like show people what's going on. Get people together to organize. Let's make this event where everybody's gonna come together and we're gonna rally, or we're gonna protest, or we're gonna do something about it. Yeah, and I feel like if people are starting to target those specific accounts, then there's not going to be a way to get your voice out there.
Something that hit me when you were speaking was I'd recently posted something on Instagram about how Mexicans used to be hanged in Texas back during the 50s, and they were lynched just for being Mexican. And a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people didn't realize that Mexicans were also lynched in this country. And somebody had posted that black people had it worse, and that was not my that wasn't my point. My point wasn't to make it seem like black people didn't have it worse, or we have it worse. Or the point was that we both suffered. The point is that I think a lot of times some of the biggest things I think has held us back is that black and brown have always kind of been fighting each other, whether it be through the gangs, the street gangs. Whether it be just every day living on the streets, we just been fighting each other instead of realizing we both have the common enemy. We've both been facing the same thing and been oppressed by the same people, I should say. And I've been saying it for years: black and brown need to unite. And I think we'll start to see real change when that happens.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing. I think that holds us back, right? Like, brown and black people are always going, and not even that, but like even within brown people, right? Like some will consider themselves brown, some might not, some are like different ethnicities, right? Within that, so we're all just kind of always split up, and and I get like being prideful, right? Like, or not being prideful, but being proud about like who you are, where you come from, and like your story. But there's another sense that's not keeping that unity, right? And so like if we can unify, there's a lot more, I think, of us in general. So if there was unity, I feel like we could get a lot more done.
Yeah, I think it's a must. It's a must more than ever. Look at the biggest population of the prisons right now, and it's been this way since the 70s. So the biggest population of prisoners are blacks and Hispanics, specifically Mexicans. Blacks and Mexicans are the number one incarcerated in the country. We're thrown in prison all day long. And so there's been a war against us for a long time, and I just feel like that has to end. That has to stop. Yeah. I think soon, right? If we want to see some real change.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you were talking, actually, it made me think of. I saw this quote like a long time ago, actually, but you just brought it up again. Like, if you have come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Deep, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's deep. It is deep.
And it's essentially saying that like if we're not working together, then we're working against each other. If we're not unifying and like organizing and coming together, and like this attack just on like Facebook and specific accounts is really an attack at us, because it's not going to be it's not going to be a medium for us to be able to organize ourselves. And that's always the biggest threat, is like once people start to unify and organize, that is always the biggest threat to anyone.
So you would say I would say then you're trying to say the system likes to keep us likes to keep us separated.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Constantly try to keep us separated all the time.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. And they've done it through different means, but one of the ways they've done it is drugs. It's been admitted that the CIA created crack cocaine, and they brought that in the 80s, and that just destroyed neighborhoods and brought nothing but division, and a whole generation of dads locked up in prison. And so they do it through drugs. They do it through just the media. They do it through everything. They just really like us not on a united front. Every major revolution that has happened so far in the history of this world has been through people started uniting. And that's the number one thing that they don't want. They don't want us uniting. And because that's when things will change. One thing I think is really important is to really make an impact, at least here in the United States, is we need to start opening up our own businesses. I have a good friend of mine named GW, and right now he lives in Oakland, California. He started up a vegan restaurant in Oakland, California, and I actually worked with him for a little bit in the past. And one day I was with him, and he was telling me, he was like, we need to make a change. And I was like, yeah, I agree. There needs to be change. And he was like, one way we can make a strong change is we have to create our own businesses, black and brown, make our own, people of color, make our own businesses. He says, because money, at least in this country, money is king. Money is power here. The finances, right? And a lot of times we go begging to the system, right? To the people who stole this land, right? These what do we call it? These colonists, right? These European colonists that are still here today in the United States, and they have created jobs, they've taken the land, they have done everything, and they've created a whole system. And they benefit themselves, they help themselves, and the way we can change that, we're always looking for them for help, always looking for them for jobs. They're giving us jobs, they're hiring us all the time. We have to present ourselves before them to act all happy and nice so we can get that job and work for them. But I think we got to start changing our mindset. We got to start opening up our own businesses. We got to start hiring our own people. And when that starts rolling, when we start having our own money and giving our money to our own communities, then I think something will happen there.
Yeah, we can help each other out and help ourselves through helping each other out, right? Like that, I think that's what would end up happening. Because we can't do it alone, right? Like at this point where we are economically, like socially in the ladder, I don't think we can just rise up out of it just through our own means anymore. It has to be something that joins us together. It has to be a way of like, okay, you know, there's a couple of families, maybe we get together and we save up and we buy our own piece of land, or we build up a house there and we share that, and then like at least it's our house, right? Until one of us can like go ahead and save up, keep buying houses, right? And doing that. I mean, I know they've done that before here in Boston, and like start buying their own land for like the specific community, start building their own houses, putting people of color in those housing. So that's the way to go. Like that's the way to do it. Just like how what was the name of that place in Dorchester that you looked into? It sounds really amazing. I think it's like a nonprofit, right? And it like helps you start.
Yeah, I don't remember the name right now, but it's a nonprofit. It's the only one here in Boston, and it will. Their main focus is setting you up to start your own food business, whether it be starting a food truck, starting a food product, or starting a restaurant. Mm-hmm. They get you up and settled in a professional kitchen, and it does cost, but it's very minimal of what you would find anywhere else because they're a nonprofit. And the goal is to make yourself empowered, self-sustaining, owning your own business. I remember reading too the other day on Instagram of this African American lady in LA, and she, I think 3 years ago, she started a small little company in her kitchen making organic soap. And today, I think she has 12 workers, and she has like a warehouse and hiring people within her own community. Nice. It's really cool. So we this is the type of things that we need to see happening, and uplift each other. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like out here, we see things like most of the jobs that the Hispanics have out here are minimum wage, and those positions are filled by Hispanic workers because they're struggling. But something that always hit me, or something that I realized a long time ago, was that if companies pay you $12 an hour or $11 an hour, the minimum wage out here is $11 an hour. If they're paying you minimum wage, whatever it is where you're from, they would pay you less if they could. Right? They would pay you less if they could. If they're paying you minimum wage, that means they do not care, and all they care about is their bottom line. And I think if we were to start our own business, we're going to care about our own people. We're going to try to do as best as we can to create a livable or sustainable wage for our people, our communities. Yeah.
And we do need that, but I bet a lot of people are probably thinking like, well, how do I do that, right? Like, if I do have that minimum wage, or that's all I can get here, how am I supposed to do that and, like, rise up? How am I supposed to, like, I would love to run and have my own restaurant, my own business, but how am I supposed to get to that point? Either no one gives me a chance, or I don't have the money to back it up, right? Like, I would think those are two questions that probably come up. And just from what I was thinking is, like, a lot of times, or at least what I've seen with Hispanics, we tend to just, like, take on those jobs, those minimum wage, those, like, hard working hours that nobody else wants, and, like, what do we do, right? Like, we just take it because we think that there's nothing else that we can get. And I think a lot of times we need to realize that, like, no, there is another option, and there is something else out there for me, and I need to find that opportunity, right? Like, there's always more opportunities. There's always thousands of jobs, especially in a city like Boston. So it's a matter of, like, finding what's gonna be good for you, or, like, the environment that's gonna be good for you.
I think what you were saying before, how does a person do that? Well, I think at least maybe starting out, what we can do is try to get with others, right? Get with your cousins or your friends and save up some money. We spend so much time going out, drinking alcohol, going out to clubs. I mean, how much you spend going to a club? I mean, I used to
drink is like 15, 7 maybe.
Man, I used to go out all the time, and on average, just spending like $100 a night. You're gonna buy yourself a drink, you're gonna buy others a drink, you gotta get in. It's expensive, and imagine if we were to cut down. Okay, we're not going to the club anymore, or we're gonna limit it to maybe once every couple months. Save that money, get it toward a business permit. Get it toward, tell a friend or someone close to you who also has that idea. Let's get together. Let's start something.
Yeah, so it's starting to be smart with your money overall, right? Like, finding those things that you can't cut down. Like, you can still live your life. You can still enjoy it. But, like, what are you by the time like in 10, 20 years, what are you going to have to show for that life, right? Like, that's what you're saying. Because if you're just going out to the club and, like, enjoying your time every weekend, which we both were there, right? Like, we both did that. Like, where is that going to get you in a couple of years, right? I think we're looking back at it now like, damn, like, we should have started that a long time ago, right? Like, start saving then. Start saving, like, back then. And I think there's always an opportunity. Like, whether it's with your immediate family, it's what you said, with larger, your cousins, get into something together. Start saving up, get into a business somehow. Investment, even stocks, or whichever way you can find, really start making some more money, or like find something that's gonna give you something in the end, right, that you can show for.
Definitely. I remember something that was somebody told me. I'm from a place called Santa Rosa, California, and I remember somebody told me one time, they're like, "Why are you guys celebrating so much? You guys go out every weekend. What are you celebrating for? What'd you do?" Be like, "Well, we haven't done anything. So why are you celebrating so much then?" And I was like, "I don't know." But that, we would treat every weekend as if it was, something to celebrate, and there really wasn't anything. It was just a waste of time and waste of money. We could, use our efforts for something, or use our energy for something more productive. And that's what we probably should have been doing. But, it's not like we got a good job and we're having a good time. We got promoted. No, it was just partying, just to party. Who knows how many brain cells we killed in the process.
Oh, God. Yeah, for real. And not just that. There's, like, don't know if you ever heard of it, but Mexicans have this thing called sanasta. Probably saying it wrong, but it's like a couple people get together, right? It could be coworkers, it could be family, and you take turns. So like everyone puts money into like a pot, essentially, right, or a canasta, and so everyone puts, let's say 100, right? Okay, 100, and then that month, all that money is gonna go to this specific person. Right, next month it goes to Alex. Then the third month it goes to Veronica. And so it's kind of a way to like help yourself out because you have this extra, it could be like 500, 600, depending how many people you have. The more the better, right? But depending how many people, you have more money coming in. And so for every month that like you get it, right? Say that month, this month it's you. Now you have all this extra money that you can use to like pay off your debt. Or maybe you wanted that new car and now you can have it, right? Like, or it was like you were behind on your mortgage for your house, so there you go, it came out of that. And so you're helping each other out, right? It's a community that you build and you're helping each other out to get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's genius. It's genius.
No, it's pretty smart.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty smart. So again, these are just some of the things that were thrown out there. Just I think that we can start with. We can start with this as different communities out there. And something I noticed out here in Boston was, it's really divided as far as neighborhoods. And for example, we live in an area called Jamaica Plain, and Jamaica Plain is known to have it's known to be a Dominican area, the Dominican Republic. Then you have another area where you may say you have Jamaicans. Then you have another area, you may have Puerto Ricans, etc. And one thing I noticed out here, it's really strong. It's like, you're Puerto Rican, well, I'm Dominican. Oh, you're from Colombia, I'm from El Salvador. And then it's really like this weird, even separation amongst Hispanics out here, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't really help each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that realizing that we all kind of have those same roots, we were all of our nations were conquered by Spain. We were all once natives in North and South America, and we all have that within us, right? So we're very, very connected. Yeah, for some reason, because of these so-called borders, we think we're different, right? But I think we're a lot similar than different, I think.
Oh, we're way similar, right? Like, I mean, just the background, our cultures, maybe different locations actually, but that's about it. Like, I feel like all the food is pretty similar. We all have rice, we all have beans some way. Yeah, language is like the biggest one that we have too.
I'll
like,
Spanish.
Why not help each other out and like, oh, okay, I have this job, right? Like in the hospital, and I'm making pretty decent money, and I know there's like another Hispanic or my neighbor who like needs or is looking for something. Let me bring them in. Why not just bring them in, right? Like if I'm in a position I can help someone else, bring them in, because you never know when the table's gonna turn, and you might be in that position and you need to be helped out. And it's just back to what we were saying, just like building that community, right? It's like unifying, organizing, getting everybody on the same page, getting together.
Yeah. I definitely think that needs to start happening, right? We need to see that fundamental, just that mind change, or that worldview needs to change. That we're all like, we're brothers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're all brothers, and it's not a matter of, oh, you're this, you're that, that's your flag, or this is my flag. No. We all have that passion. You speak to any Hispanic, they all call it like Latin passion. It's because there's something we all have similar, no matter if you're from Mexico, like I am and Veronica is, or you're Colombian, or you're Dominican. All of us pretty much have that same. We have that passion within us, where we have that fire. We all have that fire, and it's because we all have that same roots. We are all coming from. We all have that indigenous roots from South and North America. No matter, we all come from different tribes, but we all have there. We're really one people. I truly believe that, and that's what we're all. So kind of, we have that energy, that's the spirit within us.
Mm-hmm. One people.
One people.
I like that. We're one people.
One people. I think that's good for the first episode. Any closing thoughts, Veronica? Just
stay informed. Stay informed. try to unify, try to stay together, help each other. We all have a similar story, so we need to be out there and helping one another, one people.
Before I forget, as far as starting your own businesses and trying to come together in that way, I'm going to try to get my good friend GW on this podcast, and he has started 3 businesses before, and he is very well informed in that. So I'm going to try to get him on this podcast to kind of share some ideas as well in the future. I'm going to try to do this podcast every Sunday, and so we can get this ball rolling and really try to build something on this. Thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning in, and really we both really appreciate it for taking the time to listen to us.
Thank you.
Bye.